Hi guys, welcome back to Noble Self-Publishing. My name is Jen, and I'm just basically recording all of the knowledge I have on self-publishing here. This video is meant to teach you about track changes, which is a feature of Word that I use quite often when I'm working with clients. I don't use it on self-editing so much, but these kinds of things, especially the comment feature, that comes in handy if you're asked to be a beta reader or if you're asked to basically give feedback to an author on their book. So either one of these is fantastic. These are great tools. For editing, track changes is phenomenal. Sorry, my computer keeps sliding around. I've kind of got this whole thing set up in a really weird kind of like roundabout way. But without further ado, track changes and the comments feature, right? So in order to use track changes, you first want to turn it on. And in order to do that, you got to go to the review tab. Normally you're on the home tab, right? And you want to be on the review tab. And then right here, you'll see track changes thing, right? And it's not highlighted right now. If you click that, it'll highlight, and that means it's on. So here next to the track changes on and off toggle, whatever you want to call it, you can choose whether you want to see simple markup, all markup, no markup, or just the original document. I like to stick with simple markup because that shows me what changes I've made and where they are. So obviously this is not supposed to be on two separate pages because this is a new poem, and unfortunately because the author used enter instead of a page break is why it's looking all funky like that. So what I'm going to do here first, right? And you can see that there's a red kind of thing indicating the line where there were changes made, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to click Control Enter to put it on a new page. And that is actually the way you do a page break, which is one of the things you want to keep in mind when you are formatting your Word document to be converted into an ebook. I always use page breaks. I never push enter until I get to the next page. I always use page breaks because of that reason, because it is pre-work to get the ebook out. So now that we have this poem on a new page, let's see if there's anything to edit. And I've not looked at this before, so I'm just going to read through this really fast and see if there's any editing necessary. And I'll do that as I go. So if you see me, making changes or whatever, pay attention to what lines show up in the margin, right? And I will show you how to do comments after that. Okay, now I have to read. Causing a healing, a rejuvenation, and a reason for joy. Okay, so this is a beautiful poem. I absolutely love it. There are more changes that I would make. For example, I would not capitalize the beginning of each line in this particular poem because they are sentences, right? So when I edit poetry, it's a little different from editing fiction, and it's very different. Both of those are very different from editing nonfiction. With nonfiction, you want to be factual and you want to be straightforward and you want to get to the point and maybe throw some humor in there. With fiction, it depends on the mood of the book. I mean, and what genre it is, who's the narrator, whose perspective is the story being told from. But poetry, tends to be extremely personal, and it tends to be extremely emotional and cathartic and very from the soul kind of an expression. So I treat poetry a lot differently than I would, say, a nonfiction book. But here, let me go through one more time and make a couple more changes. Rhythms of anger, healing, a rejuvenation, and a reason for joy. Okay, so now you can see this line is pretty much solid, which means there are several corrections made on each line, right? So now we're going to go up here and click on Review again, and we're going to show all markup, right? So now you can see each of the corrections that I made individually, right? And I'm going to go back to simple markup because okay, as an aside, if you are going back and forth with your editor and you make changes in your Word document using the all markup, show all markup, Word has a tendency to, well, and it's not Word necessarily, it is just the way that things are perceived, right? Okay, let me give you an example. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to look at all markup, which I hate looking at. But you see how this is crossed out, but you can barely tell, and this is underlined, but you can barely tell. So a lot of times what happens when I edit a book and I send it back to someone, and I usually specify in my emails, I usually specify exactly like, hey, here's a dirty version and a clean version. If you want to see what changes I made, look at the dirty version. And if you want to work on your book and make your own changes, look at the clean version, right? Work in the clean version, because otherwise there's going to be markup everywhere. It's chaos. It's catastrophe. It's completely like a clusterfuck of just red marks and then green marks or whatever other color, to differentiate between the two different people making changes, and it becomes this huge like chaotic thing. So usually what I tell my clients, my editing clients, is here's the dirty version, right, version of the document. This is the one that I want you to look at if you're confused about any of the changes made, right? A lot of times it'll explain why, or it'll at least point out the change made so that way you can ask questions about it or whatever, right? Then the clean version, right? That's the version that I prefer authors to work in to avoid the chaotic clusterfuck of markup. So, because a lot of times there'll be extra spaces, extra marks, removed words that weren't supposed to be removed. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you're working with an editor, please read their instructions, because they have their own methods. I have my method. They have theirs, right? I mean, to me, this makes sense, but I'm also not an industry like guru or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of little me sitting here in my corner teaching other people what I've learned, but if you just keep it at simple markup up here, that stuff is less likely to happen to you. So if your editor doesn't want you to work in a clean version but does want you to make corrections, make your own corrections, don't look at all markup, because first of all, it's really, really disheartening. It kind of is discouraging. I've found for authors to look at all the red, oh my gosh, and some people get overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of correction. And really, it's not that much, and it's just little tweaks here and there. But if there are corrections on every line, some authors get overwhelmed by that, and they kind of freak out, and they don't want to do anything to it, you know? So if the markup freaks you out, if you go in here and you switch it to viewing simple markup only, then you can toggle back and forth, right? You could even just click to show everything, right? Or not. And last but not least, we'll do this really quick because I'm already like way longer into this than I originally thought I would be. So now, if you want to create a new comment, you highlight the text you want to comment on. For me, I just did the title because that's easiest. And then you click on new comment, right? And your comment will show up here. You can drag this wherever. And oops. Okay. I love this title. And oops. And poem. Yay. Okay. So there's a comment, and you just side click wherever to make it disappear. Now, if you would like to delete the comment, click to see comments, right? You want to delete it, earlier I meant left click. Now I mean right click. Ha ha, yeah. So you right click. Okay, apparently not on the comments thing itself, but if you right click right here, you can say delete comment, which is right there. And boom, it's gone. Okay. So I hope this gives you a good idea of like a quick crash course on using track changes and how to make comments. Like I said, if you're working with an editor, chances are you're familiar with track changes, or they want you to be, because it makes life so much easier. If you are a beta reader or an advanced reviewer or someone that authors ask for feedback, the comments tool is extremely helpful for that, because you can literally, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, having been in the author chair and having been in the editor chair and everything in between, okay, for my own books as well as for other people's, when I have asked for feedback on my novel or my books or whatever, I always ask people that, they record their first impressions in a comment in the margins, and didn't even think that, maybe some people just don't know how to leave comments. You know what I mean? So I got a couple of people who were leaving general feedback, but nothing usable for a testimonial or anything. It was really ridiculous. And then I had three people who actually went through the entire manuscript and read the whole thing and highlighted text and left comments and said, hey, I'm kind of confused about this part because blah, 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 blah. What do you think we could do to make that clearer? You know what I mean? Which is exactly the kind of comments that I leave. And that was what I was looking for. So if you guys are looking for beta readers, or you're trying to get people to give you feedback on your book, you may want to make sure that you show these people, or that they already know how to use the comment feature in Word, because otherwise you're going to get a paragraph or two and it's going to be really disconjointed and discombobulated, and you're not going to know where the fuck they're talking about. And it's very general feedback. Whereas with a beta reader kind of relationship, it's meant to give you detailed feedback. Okay. Beta readers are supposed to give you detailed feedback. I don't know if that's just my perception of a beta reader, but I know that for me personally, if I'm going to be asked to give someone feedback on a book that they want to publish, Why would I half-ass that feedback? I mean, if I half-ass that feedback, I ever need something from that person, they're going to half-ass whatever they're doing for me. So, in the interest of keeping everybody on the same page and functioning well and doing and with integrity, right? Um, I would definitely recommend that beta readers, especially, take the time to learn how to use the comment tool, because this is huge. You can record all of your initial reactions as a reader to each scene, to each part, to each paragraph if you want to. And that is what's really going to help an author. Now, don't go totally overboard and comment on every line, on every word, on every sentence structure. But if there's something that strikes you, that either resonates with you and you're like, wow, awesome, or that is totally wrong and totally gives you the wrong impression, I would leave a comment. Honestly. Like, it's just common courtesy. Anyway, so now that this video's run like way longer than what I expected it to, with a couple of fun facts thrown in, right? I'm going to say this is it. And my next video is going to be a video about how to use the compare documents feature in Word, because that also comes in really, really handy if you're working with anybody on your book, or even if you have two different versions of the same document. Maybe it's an old document, maybe you're revisiting it, maybe it's, you know, whatever, and you want to compare and see what's different about it. Anyway, that's going to be the next video. For the time being, thank you guys for being here. I hope this helped. I hope this helped some of you to figure out what you're doing better. I hope this helped some of you figure out Word better. And I hope this helped you guys figure out either what to expect of beta readers or what to do if you are a beta reader. So that being said, I hope you guys have a great week. And as always, happy self-publishing. I'll see you next time. Bye.